morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second day of the 8th Delphi Economic Forum. Today we start our program with a very hopefully interesting discussion regarding the NPLs and the secondary market. The title is Refinancing Opportunities and Challenging. And I am the manager of CNN Greece. I'm Dimitris Pefanis, and I have a very high-level panel of people who have actually billions under management, have thorough knowledge on the NPL market. So let us welcome Mrs. Fotini Ioannou, the General Manager of the Legacy and Portfolio Specialized Asset Solutions Unit at NBG Greece. You represent the banks at our panel. So what is the role that the banks can play in the secondary market of NPLs?
Okay, thank you, Dimitri. Thank you for the invite. It's a heavy subject to kick off the day, but we'll do our best. Before answering that question about the role of the banks and in the secondary market of the NPLs, I think it's important just to set the stage and remind everyone of the difference in the current environment in relation to the last 4 or 5 years. At the moment, all 4 systemic banks have single-digit NPE ratios, and in the past 4 or 5 years, we have all offloaded something like 100 billion worth of NPEs. Through, to a large extent, securitizations, portfolio sales, but also through organic actions such as restructurings. And thankfully, the narrative on Greek banks has shifted away from NPE cleanup to sustainable growth and business model resilience. Now, going to the secondary market, what is also true is that the NPEs may have left the banks, but they're still in the system. They're in the hands of the investors and are being managed by the servicers. And the business plans that are attached to the sales and the securitizations that took place are very demanding. And the achievement of the targets of those business plans will only come around if the servicers and the investors are successful in truly working out the non-performing exposures, which is something that has recently started. Now, the achievement of those business plan targets can happen through basically a number of recovery strategies. It can happen through follow-on sales, which is the secondary market or part of the secondary market, and that's a market that I think is going to be very, very relevant in the next 18 to 24 months. It's started already, but I think we will see a lot more activity in the next 18 to 24 months. Or they can recover, they can meet their recovery targets through monetization of the asset or through rehabilitation of the debtor. Let me make a parenthesis because monetization of the asset leads to the ugly word of auctions. And we've had a lot of discussions about auctions. And I think whether we like it or not, for an efficient banking system, for an efficient credit system, you need to have a liquid, efficient auction market. It's a fact of life, it's a necessity. What is also true, and I think it's important to be noted, is that more than 3/4 of the recoveries that are expected to come through those business plans are not expected to come through auctions. They're expected to come through amicable solutions. And I think this is a very important note to make. Now, the role that the banks can play in the secondary market. Obviously, we can finance the secondary portfolio transactions through senior financing. We can provide working capital facilities so that the investors can onboard and mature the assets through the LGs and the RIOCO financings. We can provide financings to the third-party buyers of the assets. But the most important role that the banks can play is by helping to shape the framework that will provide the debtors that will have been viably restructured with a second chance to return to the banking system. And I think that's where we can play a pivotal role, and I think we will have an opportunity to talk about that more in the next part of the discussion.
You're right on point, and thank you for setting up the stage and facilitating the discussion for the rest of us. So what is the role that you, as banks, of course, can play for reperforming debtors? What are the tools, what are the opportunities that you offer?
I'm actually going to agree with Theo quite a bit, which doesn't happen often, but I'm going to agree here. As I said before, it is true that by our nature, the banks have a very important role to play in shaping the framework and providing the solutions together with the other players in the market, the investors, the servicers, the regulator, obviously very, very important for a second chance for cooperative debtors. And it is true that the banks are uniquely placed to re-onboard those loans that will be restructured by the servicers and will have proven their performing status to one extent or another. And it is true that the natural owners of long-term restructurings with reasonable LTVs are the banks. It's not the investors that have invested in the distressed situations in the first place. The RPL securitization market is very, very active in the UK and Ireland, and I truly believe that it's going to be very relevant in Greece as well. And to be honest, it's not rocket science. I mean, we at NBG have been offering viable restructurings. I think we're still the only bank that offers the split and settle product, which basically does that. You know, it creates viable restructurings, it creates loans that have reasonable LTVs and allows for equity upside to the mortgage holder. And this is what the servicers are going to be doing. And if they're going to be doing that, then obviously the banks have every reason to buy those assets. And obviously, all this needs to be done in a very careful and regulatory compliant manner. And we need to work together with the servicers to make sure that they provide the right solutions. And most importantly, to go to what John said, to have the right data that we will need in order to re-onboard those loans as truly performing. Now, and to talk about NBG in particular, this is a strategic priority for us. The re-intermediation of those assets back onto the banking balance sheets. You know, in a country where we've had 50% NPE ratio and 2 or 3 years of growth so far, we're still at something like 55% performing assets as percent to GDP. It's obvious there is an opportunity there. So for us, it's a strategic priority to create an end-to-end collaboration framework, a nexus between all the players, the investors, the banks, the regulator, in order to provide this second chance framework. And in fact, we're going a step even further. We're not just financiers. At the moment, we're in exclusive discussions with one of the biggest players in the market, with Fortress, to create a joint venture to provide what you said, Thea, to provide DPO financings and refinancing opportunities to mortgage holders and asset-backed SME holders. So, you know, very important, and I think this NPL secondary market can only work if the banks play a pivotal role.
Thank you very much for that, and I totally agree that the banks are the biggest player and they're the movers and shakers in the sector. Thank you very much. It was a really fruitful discussion. From my part, I think we have gone a really long way towards solving the NPL problem. Deep down in my heart, I really hope that UN is wrong and we're not when we have this discussion next year, we're at a better position rather than a worse position. And once again, thank you very much, all of you, for attending.